All right, today we're going to jump into a really cool period in American history. It's all about water, mud, and some seriously amazing engineering. We're talking about the Canal Era, a time when people basically decided, hey, if there's no river where we need one, let's just build it.
So let's kick things off with a bit of a puzzle. How in the world do you move 30 tons of cargo with just one mule? I mean, think about that. That's the weight of like 5 adult elephants. It sounds impossible, right? But the answer to this question literally changed America. And by the time we're done here, you'll know exactly how they pulled it off.
Okay, so to really get why canals were such a game changer, we first have to talk about the huge problem they were built to solve. Back in the early 1800s, America was growing fast, but it was also kind of stuck.
Just look at the difference here. Imagine you're a farmer, right? And you've got to get your wheat to a city. If you went by road, oh man, it was a total nightmare. Your wagon would get swallowed by mud, it cost a fortune, and you could only carry a tiny bit. But on a canal, it was a whole different story. Super smooth, way cheaper, and you could move massive amounts of heavy stuff with no problem. The country was desperate for a better way to connect everything.
And that brings us to the big, bold solution, the man-made river. The plan was, well, it was ambitious. It was almost crazy for the time. They were going to dig these massive, long-distance ditches, fill them with water, and create a brand new highway system across the country. Now, the real star of this whole show is the Erie Canal. The leaders in New York were desperate to connect New York City to all that rich farmland out west, and they took a huge gamble on this project. Just get your head around this number, 363 miles, and it was dug mostly by hand, with shovels and pickaxes. That's like digging a giant ditch from New York City almost all the way to Cleveland, Ohio. So when it was finally finished in 1825, people were blown away. They called it an engineering miracle, and it kicked off this nationwide frenzy of canal building.
But wait a second. This brings up a pretty obvious question, right? The land isn't perfectly flat. It's got hills, it's got valleys. So how on earth do you get a boat floating in a channel of water to go uphill? Well, the answer was a seriously brilliant piece of technology.
They used this amazing invention called a canal lock. Honestly, the best way to think of a lock is like a water elevator, but for boats. It's a really simple idea, but it's incredibly effective. It's just a chamber that lets a boat move between different water levels, basically letting it climb up or down a hill.
So let's walk through how this thing actually works. Step 1, a boat floats into the lock chamber. Then the gate shuts behind it, sealing it inside. Now, if you want to go up, they just flood the chamber with water, and the boat rises right up with it. To go down, they just drain the water out. Simple as that. Once the boat's at the new level, the front gate opens, and it just sails on its way. It was an absolutely genius solution for dealing with a hilly landscape.
So once they had this technology figured out, these new man-made rivers didn't just change shipping, they changed, well, pretty much everything about America.
And here it is, the answer to our puzzle from the beginning. The big secret? It's all about friction. Think about it. On a rough, muddy road, a mule is fighting against all that resistance. But on water, a heavy boat just glides. Because there's so little friction, that very same mule, just walking along a path next to the canal, they called it a towpath, could pull 30 tons instead of just one. This incredible efficiency is what made the whole system work.
And you know, this wasn't a one-way street at all. The canals basically became these two-way superhighways. You had farm goods, stuff like wheat and corn, floating east to the big cities, and then, coming back the other way, you had manufactured goods like tools and furniture heading west to the growing frontier. It wasn't just for goods either. Whole families used these waterways to move out west and start new lives.
The impact was just massive, and it all happened so fast. New towns popped up all along the canal routes, becoming these busy centers of trade almost overnight. And because of the Erie Canal, New York City just exploded, becoming the #1 port in the entire nation. Shipping costs dropped like a rock, it became way easier for families to migrate west, and oh yeah, if you happen to own land near a new canal, you suddenly got very, very rich.
But this golden age of canals wasn't going to last forever. It was about to face a powerful new challenger, one that ran on steam and iron instead of water and mules.
Okay, so when you put canals and railroads side by side, it becomes pretty clear why the train was such a big deal. A canal boat, right, it moved at a slow walking pace, maybe 4 miles per hour. A train? It could hit 30. You can't build a canal over a mountain, and they completely freeze over in the winter. But the train, the iron horse as they called it could go almost anywhere,
At any time of year, no contest, really.
So you see, the Canal Era was unbelievably important, but it was also surprisingly short. The main boom really only lasted for about 30 years or so before the new railroads just took over as the main way to move everything and everyone.
But you shouldn't think of the canals as a failure, not at all. Think of them more like a vital stepping stone. They did the hard work of connecting the country and building up a national economy. They basically laid the perfect foundation for the next big thing, the railroads and the industrial age that followed.
And you know what? Their legacy is still all around us today. Those old towpaths where the mules used to walk, a lot of them are now awesome hiking and biking trails. The old stone locks are preserved as historic parks. But the most important thing? The Canal Era proved that Americans could take on these gigantic engineering projects to completely reshape the country. And in doing that, they stitched together a bunch of separate regions into one single powerful economy.
So that kind of brings us to a final thought. The canals were the king of transportation for about 30 years before a new technology just swept them aside. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What modern technology that we use every single day might be replaced just as quickly? What do you think will seem totally old-fashioned 30 years from now?